Picard's better than Kirk. So as you guys can see by the team data thing there, tonight I had a really great time on That Random Geekcast, and we talked about Star Trek. And the first question was, of course, who's better, Kirk or Picard? Well, I mean, I think Data is better than both. But anyways, if you want to find out what my answer was, well, I kind of told you in the beginning. But if you want to find out why my answer was, you can go check them out at That Random Geekcast. The website is thatrandomgeek.com. They're also on twitch.tv at thatrandomgeek. And you can also find them on Stitcher. Look for Random Geekcast. Or That Random Geekcast. Anyways, so it was a lot of fun. A lot of great guys. We nerded out about Star Trek. It was awesome. Laid some Star Trek knowledge down. BAM! You know, I actually think that Star Trek is the only thing that I know more about than WoW. It's kind of bad. But anyways, first off, I'd like to apologize for having no episode last week. Last week got pretty crazy with my schedule. Just didn't get one out. I actually started recording an episode on Thursday just to try and get one out last week. I didn't feel too good. I was just rambling. I wasn't making sense. I didn't want to subject you guys to that stuff, so sorry for being crappy last week. I promise that I will attempt to never make that happen again. It's really hard to say it'll never happen again, because who knows. But anyways, I will ramble some this week, and send me some questions for next week, and I will be sure to answer them. So yeah, this is Aggathon's Rage Bar episode 15, 16, 15? Let me check. How many episodes are we up to? This is 15. Okay, yeah, episode 15. Anyways, before I go too much further, the beer of today is Leinenkugel's Snowdrift Vanilla Porter. This beer is glorious. Have you ever had vanilla Dr. Pepper? This is vanilla Dr. Pepper with alcohol with kind of a coffee flavoring. This is... I'm pleasantly surprised. I loved Leinenkugel Summer Shandy, and I think I like their Snowdrift Vanilla Porter even better. It's really good. It is so crisp, and porters sometimes can be kind of like tart and just... But this is just so smooth and crisp, and it's like you fell into a delicious alcohol mocha filled snowdrift. It's awesome. Anyways, so a few goings on this week in the World of Warcraft. First off is that as of today, well, right now is Monday, but when you see this it'll be Tuesday, you can now give any of your characters on any server, on any faction, heirlooms. So it's kind of a patch to what they talked about at BlizzCon. So at BlizzCon they talked about their new heirloom UI, where you will be able to manage your heirlooms between your characters a lot better. You know, your alts can use more of the heirlooms, and they went into a lot about it. You can look up all the details. I'm not getting into it right now. What I'm telling you right now is that they're doing sort of a soft patch to cover that up a little bit. And what you'll be able to do with the heirlooms now in this patch is just give it to any character. So you don't have to like transfer your character to your main server to get them down. You'll be able to just type in character name -server, I believe is how it's supposed to be, but you might want to check that before you do anything, especially if you have a character named after a server. And then actually no, I guess it wouldn't matter as long as it's on the same server. Anyways, but and so then you can just send any of your characters heirlooms. Another thing that I was talking with some people after that random geek cast that we kind of figured out, since Warlords of Draenor, if you buy Warlords of Draenor, you get a free level 90. It means you can now buy level 90s. So right now, the full game up through Mists of Pandaria until January 1st is $15. So technically, you could stack up accounts, and then for each one that you want Warlords of Draenor for, you just buy, hey, I want a level 90, $40, Warlords of Draenor. Hey, I want a level 90, $40 more, Warlords of Draenor. Each one of those accounts, you then level up to 90. As long as they have the same name as your main account, then you can transfer them to that account, and now you have a whole bunch of 90s on one account that you're not paying multiple subscriptions for. So if you really want to shell out $65, you just don't have to level a character anymore. Kind of cool. Well, I mean, you still have to level at the last 10 levels, but it's kind of a pain in the ass to get all the way to 90. I tried to level a monk, and I was just like, so I just picked up my priest, who was already level 80, and just leveled it up to 90. So now I have 2 characters at 90. I hate alts, can you tell? I never level another character up to 90. So anyways, that should be interesting. Other news, this isn't really World of Warcraft per se, but those of you who play Hearthstone, there's a patch coming out tomorrow where I am really excited. First off, priests are getting nerfed in the face, and I am so happy about it. Mind Control is now 10 mana, which means you have to wait 2 more turns in order to use Mind Control. And you can't do anything after you use Mind Control because you're out of mana. Very excited. Because usually, especially with my mage, I can win a lot of games by round 8 or 9 or so. And you know, when I get my big guy out and I just can't do anything, man, is that frustrating. Especially Ysera, because you can't kill Ysera with anything else, but oh, first turn Ysera, Mind Controlled. And then I have to like pyroblast my own Ysera. Anyways, so that's getting nerfed. Hunters are getting nerfed, which makes me really excited. Starving Buzzard is now going to be a 2-1 instead of a 2-2. And Unleash the Hounds is finally going to be changed. And I have now proven right that I was correct that Unleash the Hounds is the most overpowered 1-mana card in the game. And it's changed. But actually, Hunters, if you're honest with yourselves, this was a good change. Because before, where you could just wait till turn 6, creature dump, and then win in 1 turn, instead now, what the card does is when you play Unleash the Hounds, you gain a 1/1 Hound with charge for every minion your enemy has. It's now 4 mana. So play Starving Buzzard, play Unleash the Hounds with someone against a full deck, draw your whole deck. Like, holy cow, that's going to be good. And it also is effectively an AoE that you get to determine where all the damage lands. Like, oh my god. I actually think that the new Unleash the Hounds, this is going to sound really weird, but I think it might be more overpowered, but more fair. Because it's not just, oh, hey, look, I have no creatures, creature dump, Unleash the Hounds, you're dead in 1 turn. There's no more of that shenanigans, but the utility that card is going to give Hunters now with the redesign is really, really good. Alright, sorry, I'll start talking about Hearthstone. But yeah, be aware of that. There's a couple other changes too. Anyway, something else that some people have been speculating about, especially the random Geekcast people I was talking to, is when will Warlords of Draenor drop? I'll look at my calendar real quick here. Gotta look at the month of June. Tuesdays in June. June 17th. Calling it now. Actually, since the beta's not even out yet, I might push that back to July 22nd, maybe. somewhere in June or July on a Tuesday, I think Warlords of Draenor will drop. Mainly because I can't imagine still only having Siege of Orgrimmar through June. Now, granted, I like Siege of Orgrimmar. It's by far my favorite instance in this expansion so far. Since I love that priest, I've tried to do the legendary, so I gotta go back and do all those old raids to try and get all my sigils of wisdom and power. And man, I realized just how much I really didn't like those fights. I mean, they're okay, but I like Siege of Orgrimmar a lot better. I think Siege of Orgrimmar is a really well done instance. But so here's the reason why I think. Usually when beta comes out, we have about 5 or 6 months. So it's a combination of how much time we have left with this current content. I don't think we're going to have this current content for a whole year. Even if we had it for a full year, that would lead us to like a September release. Is that September release? Or is that an August release? I have to remember. Anyway, September or August release. That's a pretty long time. I don't think we're going to be facing it for that long. So I think we're going to have beta sometime in January, February. I think we're going to start leaving beta in probably April, May. You're probably going to see a 6.0 drop, either late May, early June. And then a few weeks, probably a month or so after 6.0 drop, then Warlords of Draenor will drop. And what all transpires between then will be a lot of stuff. But that's sort of my general timeline for how I think things are going to fall out. We'll see if it happens, but all I know is I can't wait for it. I really think they're doing a lot of stuff right in Warlords of Draenor. It's been a long time since I've been this excited about an expansion. Seriously. So anyways, something that Olivia talked about, and I should have actually done my episode last week so that it doesn't look like I'm ripping off of what she was saying. But I honestly did have this whole episode I was going to do about gear itemization. So now I think I'll kind of cut that down a little bit because she covered a bit of that. But I want to talk a little bit about the implications of the gear switches, especially with respects to 20-man raids and how all this is going to pan out. Now, the first thing I want to talk about that everyone is really worried about is tertiary stats. So everyone is like panicking that tertiary stats are going to be just too good. Now, Blizzard has said that the one they want to do is for tertiary stats to be a cool bonus. Not something you can really farm for. You're not going to be able to have a run speed set or a cleave set. But I'm sort of skeptical because if I look back, now I don't think I can name anything specifically that like is a hugely guilty of this, but it feels like looking back a lot of the times where they've said, oh, this won't be overpowered, this won't be a problem, no one will just stack resilience. So there's an example. That it just ends up being a really bad idea, and it doesn't work out how they wanted to. I think PvP in general hasn't worked out how they wanted to for the last 2 expansions. But, I'm really worried that tertiary stats are gonna lead that way, and I think they might be kind of cool. And what they're wanting now the reason they're doing this is because here's the question: if tertiary stats aren't a big deal, it's not something you can farm for, it's not something that will necessarily be optimal, it's just something sort of cool on gear. Why do we care? Why do we care? Well, the idea is, and this is why I'm nervous about this, because striking this balance is going to be very, very difficult for Blizzard. And that is, the idea is that it's good enough that it gives you reason to keep going back to the instance and still farm content, but not enough of a reason that so it gives it a what they're calling a long tail to the content, so that it's not all just, hey, you got your waist and now you don't care about getting a waist anymore. That there's a long tail and it's very hard to get exactly a best in slot piece of gear. But that sounds, even as I was just saying it right there, that sounds kind of contradictory. In so you're saying, oh well, we don't want you to be, farming your best in slot, but we want you to be still going and doing these instances and farming, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me why they're doing this. Honestly, when I think about this, I feel like what it is going to be is you're going to start giving all the cleave gear to a certain warrior, especially in 20-man mythic raids. And you're going to be like, all right, you're our AoE warrior. Just every time a cleave piece of gear drops, you give it to them. Which, by the way, clarification on cleave. I've heard some misconceptions that cleave is going to work a lot like the, what is that, the nourishing trinket, the fusion core, I think it is, for warriors, where basically when you deal some damage to something, you have a chance to have it be dealt to the 5 nearest characters around you. Not what's going to happen with the cleave stat, at least not in its current form. Instead, what they said they're going to do is just whenever you do something that's like AoE damage, it'll slightly increase your AoE damage. So your whirlwind might do 1% more damage or something like that. But here's a good example of something Blizzard says won't be a big deal, doesn't affect it a whole lot, but it ended up affecting it a whole lot. And I'm so glad that they haven't done this at all in Mists of Pandaria, and that's the steady nerfs. That is the 5% nerf every week to a whole tier. You think 5% isn't a whole lot. Oh, 1% cleave isn't that much. But really? Especially high-end rating? Yeah, it really kind of is. Because if you can get these mobs down 1% faster, you're on this boss 1% more of the time. And, it sort of all tumbles from there. So it's not really a 1% gain. It ends up being more like a 2% gain. And something that's a very hard chord to strike. The other thing, now I think they've talked about tertiary stats not working in PvP. What happens if someone stacks a whole bunch of run speed for PvP? Again, they've said they can't do it, but especially since more gear can be used by more people, I feel like especially leather users, you could just say, this rogue gets all leather gear with run speed on it, and then you have him do anything that requires a lot of running fast, and then he gets to be overpowered in PvP. So tertiary stats have me really concerned, and I think they're really going to have to strike that balance just right. If they manage to strike it just right so that you really, really can't just farm it. You really can't just say, okay, this person gets all of this type of gear, but it's enough that you actually want to go back for a chance to do that. If there's see, the problem is if you want people to keep farming content, the idea is that there's a reasonable chance that they will actually get something, and that risk and that time spent getting that is worth the upgrade. If you already have all your best in slot, but say it's not all best in slot with cleave or whatever, and you just want to stop farming, if it's a really low drop chance, you're not going to keep farming for that. If it is a drop chance, that means you can farm it and stack it. So I'm just not sure how they're going to pull this off, and it's a really fine line that they've got to cut. So I'm kind of edgy about tertiary stats. Now, another one of the implications that that's been talked about is the gear having the primary stat change based on what your spec is. So if you have a piece of plate gear to a holy paladin, that plate gear has int on it. To a fury warrior, that plate gear has strength on it. But all the other stats are the same. Still has maybe tertiary stats, those will be the same. Secondary stats, it's just going to be haste and mastery. Or whatever. Crit mastery or blah blah blah. Oh, quick tangent before I forget. Just so you warriors out there that are going, or any other class that has, you have crit, mastery, haste. That's pretty much your 3 secondary stats. Well, spirit for healers, but that's not on gear, so whatever. That's not on gear in Warlords of Draenor. But anyways, of your 3 secondary stats, there are a lot of classes that have one that's just completely effing worthless. Fury Warriors, for example. Haste, completely wasted itemization. You don't want gear with haste on it at all if it can be avoided. Blizzard has said that because we're not going to be able to reforge, they will make it so that those other secondary stats are significantly better for any given class, so that it's not just completely wasted itemization. There's actually something you get out of it, even if it's not optimal, even if it's not your best. It's still not just complete crap. Anyways, going back. So we've talked about, plate switching gear. So plate looks like it's int or strength based on if you're a holy paladin or not. Here's the problem with this. I've been thinking a lot about it, and really, this is great for plate users, especially for paladins. No more does spirit plate drop, and everyone goes, fine, this paladin gets it, and they just take all the gear. They don't have to compete with anything. It's whatever. No more of that. Or if you don't even have a holy paladin, then the gear just goes to waste. And 21-man raids, probably going to be 4 or 5 healers. You might not have a holy paladin. You'll probably have a paladin. Whether or not he or she will be holy or not is a completely different question. So odds are that spirit plate is going to be, would have been the most high probability of getting disenchanted. But they're also doing this for mail and leather. And I don't know that it's really as big of a deal with mail and leather, especially if mythic raids are still going to be 20-man raids. Now, I say this because I tend to associate, since everything else is going to be flex, I tend to associate it with the flex loot format. However, what they said is so far, the flex loot may not be exactly the LFR loot system. It can be I think they're going to have it as an option, but flex raids may still drop, for default, will still actually drop loot that you have to distribute. And say, if you have 16 people, you have a 1.6 higher chance of getting loot. So sometimes, like 60% of the time you get 3 drops. 60% of the time you get 3 drops, 40% of the time you get 2 drops, or something like that. It's based on how many people are in your group at the time you kill the boss, is that much of a higher percentage chance to drop extra loot, so that your over time chance for loot is the same based on whether, regardless of your raid size. And there's a couple reasons why this is important. First, for flex rating and LFR rating in its current format, I actually really like the LFR style of loot. A lot of this is pug content. You're not doing it to build up a certain guild. You have different people every week. You may find completely different groups every week. It may not be the same group every week. And that's great. But what consistent loot drops are for is for gearing out your raid in your group. When what's now flex will be normal, and what's now normal will be heroic. So we'll call it Warlords of Journey or heroic raiders, which are currently normal raiders. Say they still want to have their guild, but they want to raid with all 13 or whatever, instead of having to bench 3 people every day. They can still do that, but if you have the LFR system of loot, you're not. It's everyone's individual role. It's not helping the group as a whole over time. So over time, you want to be able to diversify gear, equally gear up your people, and have a more even loot distribution. Whereas if it's all individual based, it's really just kind of, it's even more RNG. It's, well, this person happened to get a lot of loot, so now he's way ahead of people. Or, hey, there's a lot more finickiness to it, which is better for the individual, but not necessarily better for the group. And that's what I'm really trying to get at here, is that dropping loot on a boss versus dropping loot individually on a roll is better for the group as a whole and for uniform loot distribution. And so uh, I'm gonna may need to take a nap to go all the way back to where I was talking with this logic. But basically, for more uniform loot distribution and non 20-man raids, if you're still only raiding with 10 people, it makes a lot of sense to be able to have gear where primary stats can still change. It's a little more shaky with the leather and mail than with just holy paladins, because with leather, say spirit mail, I guess you have the same problem with spirit mail, don't you? Although none of it will have spirit on it anymore, but intellect mail, it's still only resto shamans, right? I'm not forgetting anyone, am I? No, I'm not. So really, but also you have Agi mail is only still hunters and no, sorry, it's only shamans, but it's resto or Ellie. But then but that's still only 2, and then you also have Agi mail, which is only enhancement and hunter. So if you don't have either of those in your flex raid, then that loot just goes to waste. But it's more probable that you would have one of those 4. So if all 4 of those are now sharing loot because they can switch, then it's a lot better for the lower raid number groups of people, since the flex raids, both normal and heroic and Warlords of Draenor are flex, will have normal loot drops, not just the LFR loot system. So that's where I'm going with all of this, that the ability to switch is still good because you'll still have those lower numbered raids. Not everything is going to be 20-man raids. Even though Mythic is 20-man ratings, not everyone's going to be doing Mythic. And that's fine. That's great. I'm happy about that. But I think for 20-man raids, it doesn't make quite as much sense. But since it's 20 instead of 25, yeah. I think the loot distribution will still be fine. Now, there's one other thing I want to talk about in this episode. Well, yeah. There's one other thing. I was thinking about talking about 2 other things, but I think I really only want to talk about one other thing. And that is haste breakpoints, or mastery breakpoints, or I don't know if some classes right now have crit breakpoints. But it's breakpoints that are not hit and expertise related. So hit and expertise, as you recall, are now gone. They no longer exist. You're just going to hit a boss, and it's not going to dodge you. It might parry you. We'll see how all that works out. But the point is that hit and expertise are not going to be on your stats anymore. On your gear anymore. There's not going to be a stat that you can reforge to. And there's no reforging either. The problem is when you take away those stats, there's still some stats that say you need 3,726 haste. I just threw that number out there. I don't know if that's a real haste breakpoint number. But say you need 7,384 haste. And above that, haste is kind of useless until you get to 12,580 billion haste. So you don't want any more haste than that. So you always reforge haste off once you're at that breakpoint. But now that you don't have reforging, how do you do that? You have to try to match up the exact right pieces of gear to get these haste points to be the most optimal. And it seems like a lot of what Blizzard is doing, a lot of the changes they're making, kind of takes away from theory crafting of finding those haste breakpoints if you can't reforge anything. A lot of the gear, which, there's still going to be theory crafting. It's still going to be, well, what's better, crit, mastery, still need your basics. But a lot of the stuff where we were figuring out the exact right optimization of gear, because we could with reforging, we could hit exactly those numbers by reforging gear in a certain way, those all kind of start to go away. And what Blizzard has said is that they're going to try and minimize the amount of haste breakpoints that they have. They're going to have to do a lot of rework for healing and for dot classes in order to do this. But they've said that's their goal. Because what they want you to do ultimately is be able to get a piece of gear in raid and just slap it on. Now you can use it. Now you're going to go raid some more. There's no hearthing back and finding an enchant and then reforging it, or then gemming it, and then going to your reforged trammer and then reforging all of your gear so all your stats still line up. They want you to be able to just get a piece of gear and go. Maybe that it's one of the few, because they're also going to limit how many pieces of gear can be enchanted now. Not as many pieces of gear are going to have enchants in Warlords of Draenor. But that allows you to say, well, I need this upgrade so I can carry this enchant with me, and then just throw on the enchant, then you're done. Or maybe carry a couple gems around if you happen to get a piece of gear that has a socket, because a socket is going to be one of the tertiary stats, or as I will call it, the best tertiary stat, because if the other ones are minimal and your socket gives you more of your good stats, then clearly you want all socketed gear. But anyways, the point is, with those few exceptions, when you get gear, you can just use it. And that's the whole point. You don't have to worry about haste or crit or whatever caps. You just get to use the gear. More haste is good for you, the more haste is good for you. So I'm really worried about how that will all pan out. If they can really fix how dot classes and haste has worked over time to really make it so that people aren't, scrambling over, I need this absolute specific piece of gear in order to hit this cap. Overall, I really, really like the philosophy that they're going for with the new loot in Warlords of Draenor. Having said that, the more and more I've been thinking about it, I'm really worried that there's some finesse there that we've gotten used to that's in the system now. When they take that away, what else is really going to happen? Are we really going to have the same homogeneous system that we had before? So yeah, I'm nervous about the atomization, how that's all going to pan out. I think it's going to pan out just fine, but I guess we'll have to wait for June 17th to find out. Again, that's just my random throw a dart at a dartboard guess as to when Warlords of Draenor is going to come out. But if it does, yeah. Anyways, so big news before I leave. As you guys may or may not be able to tell, I've been gaining weight. 2012, I started working out a lot. I lost 55 pounds. I was pretty happy with myself. If you recall, a few months ago, I did the Tough Mudder. Pretty much ever since the Tough Mudder, I've just been sitting on my ass and shoveling shit into my mouth. It's been bad. Part of it's been real life stress related. None of your guys' concerns. Point is, I'm working to eliminate that stress. But regardless of that stress, I need to get my ass in gear because I worked really hard to lose all that weight, and I don't like that I'm gaining it all back. However, I'd also like to share that gift with all of you and the folks at That Random Geekcast. Now, none of this is official yet, but I want to get you guys as heads up so that you're ready for it. Because you're going to have about a month, and I think what's going to happen is in January, we're going to start having the Biggest Loser World of Warcraft edition. Hopefully Jillian Michaels doesn't come down our throats for saying the Biggest Loser. But what we're going to do, now these are still unofficial details, but here's what we think we're going to do. There's going to be 3 ways to win the Biggest Loser. First, the main sort of cheerleaders at Blizzmaster that are involved in this, so myself, Navux, Adam Eastwood of That Random Geekcast, and I think Cage of Hell from Blizzmaster wants to get in on this. Those of us are going to be kind of the main cheerleaders and coaches. Are going to be, we're going to be doing the journey with you guys. We're going to be trying to lose weight also. We're going to be, documenting what we're doing. We're going to be telling you what we're eating, our recipes, our secrets, our motivational tips. We want to help you guys. And what you can do is you can sort of, it's not really betting because you're not putting any money in it, but you can pick which one of us you think is going to lose the most weight until Warlords of Draenor comes out. And out of those people, you'll win a prize. Probably out of those people, it'll be like a month of game time or something like that. Now, if you want to join us, if you're inspired by us wanting to be able to be healthy and gamers at the same time, you will be able to work out with us, and you will have a chance at much better prizes. Anyone that participates, as long as you show any progress, will have a chance to win Warlords of Draenor. The person who loses the most based off of the percentage of their body mass. So say if you weigh 300 pounds and you lose 60 pounds, that's 20% of your body mass that you lost. If 20% is the highest, then you win Warlords of Draenor Collector's Edition. Now, there's going to be some cheaters out there. I'm just going to say this out front. We're gonna take measures to try and cut down on cheating. We got a lot of people here that are real good with Photoshop, so don't try and thus, because we know. But if you really do want to cheat, not only are you cheating everyone else that's trying to live healthier, but you're cheating yourself because you're not getting healthier. If you really want to be involved in this and get healthy, anyone that shows any amount of progress, even if you're really, really skinny and you want to bulk up, you're not going to win the biggest loss. But if you show that you've been working out, show us progress, then you'll be able to be in a draw to win free Warlords of Draenor. You'll get Warlords of Draenor. Good for you. Well, you won't guaranteed get it, but you'll have a chance to get it. But what we're going to do is you'll hold up a sign that says, I'm Aggathon. Today's date is January 1st, 2014, and this is the Biggest Loser. And then you'll put that, so you'll take a picture of you with that. If you want to do like shirts so you can have like a full before and after picture, that's what I'm going to do. So at the end of all this, y'all are going to see my man boobs, and you're going to see how my man boobs shrunk. So I'm going to put it all out there, because that's what this is about. This is about getting healthier, accepting that you need to be healthier, and just getting it done. Not being embarrassed by it, but just that it's something that you need to do to be healthier. So you don't have to show your man boobs if you don't want to, or don't show your femme boobs. Wear a bra at least or something, if you're a girl that wants to get in on this. Yeah, if you want to take pictures shirt on or in workout clothes or whatever, just say so-and-so, day one, put the date that this is for Warlords of Draenor Biggest Loser, and then you're going to go weigh yourself, and you're going to put that in front of the scale, and you're going to take a picture of the weight with your feet so you can see you're on the scale and the date. That way we have documented evidence. I'm going to get on MyFitnessPal as Aggathon. Hopefully that's not taken. And you'll be able to friend me on MyFitnessPal. We can track each other's progress, count our calories every day, yada yada. And really, we want people to show that they're making progress, and we just want to be healthier. So this is also, by the way, this is not TankSpot related. Don't post on TankSpot bitching about the contest. This is a Blizzmaster thing, just so you know. So go to blizzmaster.com and bitch about it. But we will have more official stuff, more official details. We'll get it all fleshed out. It'll probably start in January, New Year's resolutions and all that fun stuff. Hopefully I'll get off my butt and start working out before then. But anyways, 2014 is going to be a better year for me for fitness. 2013 was not as good as 2012 was, but I'm going to change that. So yeah, hopefully you guys are excited about that as I am. Anyways, I've rambled on for quite a long time now, a lot longer than I thought I was going to, but send me your questions. You can reach me at Aggathon on Twitter, or you can go over to tankspot.com and send a message to the username Aggathon. Ask me questions about Warlords of Draenor, about current rating, about what I think is going to happen in the future. Yeah, next week's going to be question week again, so I'll see you all next week.